The TYR CXT-2 Trainer. 3 things to like with this shoe. Number 1, if you like shoes similar to the Reebok Nano X, the Adidas Dropset Trainer 2 and 3, basically shoes that have a much more built out platform for lifting and training, then I think you'll resonate with the CXT-2 Trainer. This shoe you can definitely feel on the feet regarding its platform, and it feels very stable when you're lifting with a Surge Energy Foam midsole and this TPU and heavier rubber outsole that wraps the entirety of this shoe. So if you do want that shoe that feels very stable for lifting, the CXT-2 Trainer can be a great bet. The second thing to like with this shoe is TYR reworked the midfoot to where I don't think it's going to have nearly as many durability issues as the CXT-1 Trainer. So with that model, I blew out my first pair with rope climbs and within the first 2 weeks. I know a lot of folks have been similar. So in this shoe, we now have a reworked TPU layer that covers that midfoot. We also have an extended outsole layer here on the medial and lateral side for additional grip. So I think in the context of being much more durable and well-rounded for CrossFit, the CXT-2 Trainer will be a really good pick for that context. I have yet to see any durability issues with the shoe, and with the TPU back here on the heel, you also get a bit more slide for handstand push-ups, which is great for preventing breakdown issues from abrasion of friction. The third thing to like with the shoe, this model's width has been increased by 4 millimeters throughout. I find it to give this shoe a more spacious fit. Now, the CXT-1 Trainer I thought ran a little bit too narrow for my needs. Now, I have an E to double E width foot, and I would say that fits perfectly with the last of the shoe. I'm not convinced that this amount of width increase will be enough for exceptionally wide feet, but I do think if you were on that cusp like me in the CXT-1 where you're like, I can wear these, but they're a little bit snug, then I think you will resonate with the shoe a little bit more because it is gonna have a better fit for your foot anatomy. Now they also have an extra wide version. However, on that product page, they don't really language how much wider compared to this iteration, which is the normal iteration it is. So I do plan to buy a pair of those and I will have some content on those in the near future. But in the context of just being a straight up pro, being wider, I do like that with the CXT-2 Trainer. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have with this model. So 3 cons that I have with the CXT-2 Trainer is number 1, the TYR rubber outsole can have some grip issues in certain contexts. And now to elaborate on this, and I spoke on this on my Instagram page and in my first impressions video, with this red colorway here, I found that this TYR rubber didn't do the best job for heavier sled pushes and explosive work on certain turfs. Now I'm curious if this is going to be an issue for everybody because I have had some folks say that they think that the different rubber compounds and the different TYR on different colorways have slightly different gripping components, which would make sense because that can sometimes be an issue with certain models. And so all that said, if you train a lot on turf and you do a lot of high intensity work on turf, definitely something to consider with the shoe. It doesn't have the most grip. I think the rubber outsole will do a plenty good job on certain surfaces like rubber gym mats, wooden platforms, etc. But I think certain colorways might start to fall short. And so for context and my thresholds, it was right around like that 5-plate, 4-plate sled push where I started to notice this the most. The second con that I have with the shoe is if you like more minimal and flexible training shoes, I don't think you're going to love this model. I language it as feeling similar to the Reebok Nano X because it does feel very built out. It's a little bit heavier. You will notice them on your feet. Plus we do have a lower tongue gusset and the tongue is pretty thick. So if you love having super lightweight, flexible, minimal feeling shoes, I don't think you're necessarily gonna resonate with this shoe's fit and feel on your feet. The third con that I have with this shoe, and this is more of just a nitpick, is that the price point has increased to $150. So it looks like we're going there with most premium training shoes regarding their price points. And honestly, if you don't want to spend $150 for this shoe, I would say shop the prior iterations, shop around and look for sales on other models, or just wait for some colorways to get discounted because TYR will typically roll out a lot of colorways, and then certain models that don't sell that well will get discounted in the near future. So if you have the patience to wait and you don't want to drop $150, totally understand. But it is kind of a bummer to start seeing prices of all of our favorite shoes keep just going up and up and up. And I wonder where that ceiling is because if $150 is now the norm, who's gonna increase next and when will that come? And now that said, if you do plan to shop this shoe and this review helps you out, you can use the links below. It does help the channel a ton. It supports small business. And I also have review content down below that I have for written content if you like to read reviews too before you buy. But all that said, let's talk about the performance of the CXT-2 Trainer. To break down the performance of the CXT-2 Trainer, I'll discuss how the shoe does for lifting, cross-training CrossFit, short runs, and daily wear. When it comes to lifting, I have thoroughly enjoyed this shoe. This is definitely a good lifting focused training shoe. And now there are 3 things to like with the shoe regarding its lifting performance. Number 1, the Surge Energy foam midsole in this shoe is plenty dense. When deadlifting 500 pounds or doing heavier leg workouts, this model gave me a nice amount of stability, and there's not a ton of toe spring, so it is pretty easy to ground the feet in the shoe despite it being a slightly thicker model. The second reason why I like this shoe for lifting is it has a nice built out feel to it. So I do like shoes when lifting that have a more built out platform at times. And if you're similar, and if you like shoes that just have that nice like blocky anchoring feeling to them when you're training and lifting, whether that's on machines, using barbell work, dumbbells, etc., you will resonate with this model. And the third reason why I like this shoe for lifting is I like the ankle support you get with this shoe, with this more rigid and deep boot cup. So if you're big on that and you like having that planted feel, once again, that will be something to resonate with the shoe. And in most lifting contexts, when it comes to deadlifting on wooden platforms or rubber gym mats, this rubber outsole did a good enough job gripping in those contexts. So all that said, I think for lifting needs, this shoe should deliver. When it comes to CrossFit, I've also really liked this shoe. It delivers that same kind of versatile yet stable feel that the CXT-1 Trainer had, but it has increased durability and more construction components that I think will help you excel at your workouts. I like the TPU wrap around the midfoot. I have yet to see any issues. And with this mesh and textile upper, it's also done a good job with abrasion resistance for the most part. We have a toe guard here for resistance of abrasion with burpees, and we have this TPU back here for assisting with friction from handstand push-ups. So in the context of being more optimized for CrossFit and giving you a longer runway regarding durability, the CXT-2 is definitely a step up from the CXT-1. When it comes to cross training, the shoe also did a pretty good job. Now, I will say the downfalls of this shoe and my hesitations are number 1, the grip with the outsole, and number 2, the overall bulk of this shoe. This is not necessarily my favorite, more minimalist feeling training shoe. If I want something in that vertical, I'll reach for Innovate models or the Hayes Trainer because those shoes will give me more flex and articulation, which is something I do enjoy for box jumps, broad jumps, plyometrics, and more of my agility focused work. So if you're similar and that is a big part of your training, that would definitely be something to consider with the CXT-2 Trainer because it is a little bit more blocky on the feet. But for most cross-training contexts, it has done a good job. I just have some issues and some concerns with the grip of this model's outsole and its overall fit and feel for certain asks and foot anatomies. When it comes to short runs, the shoe should do an okay job if you're doing intervals and WODs, or even if you're doing like a mile and down. So basically any form of running where you're gonna be primarily on your forefoot and midfoot, you should be okay in this shoe. The Surge Energy foam is dense and the rubber outsole is pretty thick. So it's definitely a denser and more clunky ride. But if you're doing short intervals or short runs, I don't think that's gonna be a big issue in this model. And now if you're gonna do 2 miles plus, I would say probably steer clear of this shoe. This heel is pretty dense, so it's not gonna be your best running focused training shoe. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a hybrid shoe, but it can hold its own for short runs and WODs. When it comes to daily wear, the shoe is okay. Personally, I would probably not rock this shoe out and about for long durations. I tried that the other day and I just found them to be a little bit too heavy. I don't love how low the tongue gusset is and I don't like the bulk of the shoe for daily wear context. I like more minimal feeling shoes. I like more breathable shoes. So if you wanna wear this shoe out and about for daily wear, you definitely can and they'll be durable. You're not gonna have issues like the Drop Set 3 does with the cutout and the outsole, but if you are somebody who wants a lighter weight shoe or just something that feels more breathable on the feet, that's where the shoe is gonna fall short for daily wear needs. Overall though, for lifting, I would give this shoe a 9 out of 10. For CrossFit, I would give it a 9 out of 10. For cross training, I would give it a 7.58 out of 10, and that's because of the grip issues I had. For short runs, 7 out of 10, and then for daily wear, 6.57 out of 10. So when it comes to the price of the CXT-2 Trainer, I already mentioned it in this video, but you can expect to pay $150 for this shoe. That is a $20 price increase from the CXT-1 Trainer. Now, if you are dead set on getting the CXT-2 Trainer and you don't want to drop full price for this shoe, wait a month or 2, I would say, and stay patient because oftentimes colorways that don't sell super well get marked down. TYR usually has a ton of colorways come out through Box Basics and TYR, and they often go on sale. So patience can pay off in this vertical, but if you don't feel like waiting, $150, which is now the industry norm, is what you can expect to pay for this model. All right, so now let's answer the question, who should buy the CXT-2 Trainer? Number 1, if you're somebody that likes heavier training shoes with more built out platforms that feel very stable for lifting, I think you'll enjoy the CXT-2 Trainer. If you were a fan of the Nano X, for example, I think you will like this model and you'll kind of resonate with its fit because it will feel similar to that shoe. The second context is if you liked the CXT-1 Trainer, you will like the CXT-2. It is a step up from that model. The CXT-1 felt like a C+ shoe. This feels like a B+, A- shoe. A lot of the curated construction changes on this shoe seem like they were based on the feedback we provided, based on the durability, the fit, the performance of the CXT-1. So the CXT-2 I do think is a step up from that model. The third context is if you're somebody that likes heavier training shoes and shoes that have upper constructions and tongues that really lock that foot down when you're doing CrossFit, cross training, whatever it might be, you'll resonate with this shoe's fit as well. And I think you'll like the ankle support if that's also something you like with your training shoes. Now, who shouldn't buy this shoe? Number one, minimalist lovers, I would say pass on this model. You're not gonna love this shoe regarding its heavier and bulkier feel and its 7mm drop. Number two, if you have exceptionally wide feet or flat feet, I would say try the extra wide version or just pass on the shoe entirely because I don't think they're gonna work for your needs. And then number three, if you are buying the shoe primarily for cross training and you train a lot on turf, be conscious of this rubber outsole and either buy a colorway that is not this red colorway or buy them and try them, and keep in mind that you might have to return them because this TYR rubber outsole may fall a little bit short for your specific training needs. So when it comes to the sizing and fit of the CXT-2 Trainer, I think most athletes and lifters should be safe going true to size in this model. So this shoe has been widened by 4mm from its predecessor. I have a normal arch and an E to double E width foot. I fit in the CXT-1 Trainer, but I often found that it could be widened a little bit. And so with the width increase of the shoe, it does fit my foot a lot more true. However, I don't think it's necessarily going to be wide enough for 3E, 4E width plus feet. So start with the extra wide version once again if that's you, and keep in mind that you might have to return them because with this model's width, it still doesn't deliver the same amount of width that you would expect from a wide version. So all that said, while I do think they will fit true to size for most foot anatomies, it's not gonna necessarily magically fit super wide feet. So even though it has been widened, I would say potentially taper some of those expectations if you do fall into that like 3E, 4E width and you're constantly struggling to find training shoes for your feet. So when it comes to the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in the TYR CXT-2 Trainer, for my size 10 shoe here, we have a weight of 11.85 ounces. This model has a heel to toe drop of 7mm that has been brought down 2mm compared to the CXT-1 Trainer. I think that was a really good move, so thank you TYR for that. And then this model also has a thin foam removable insole. All right, so now let's break down the construction of the CXT-2 Trainer. Up here on the toe box, we have a fairly aggressive and thick rubber outsole that wraps over the toe box. I love this for durability reasons. And then looking at the upper construction of the shoe, we have a mesh upper that runs throughout. We have an internal toe guard that wraps the forefoot of this model. We have some synthetic overlays here at the midfoot. And then back here on the boot, we also have this like leathery material giving you additional ankle support. Looking at the lacing system of this shoe, we have 5 core eyelets that go up. These 3 middle loops here help give you additional support. And then we also have a thick padded mesh tongue. This tongue does have a gusset and it doesn't have a ton of flex to it. So this is definitely a more snug fitting shoe regarding its midfoot. The laces I think do a pretty good job at giving you enough length to double knot them when you want to crank them tight, but then also not being super long if you like to wear them loose like I do sometimes for daily wear. The boot itself does have additional padding too. So I don't think you're gonna have issues with rub in this model regarding its boot construction. And then also on the tongue here, it's worth noting we have 2 additional loops here, so tongue security I don't think is going to be an issue with this model. Looking at the midsole of the shoe, you have the Surge Energy Foam midsole that runs throughout. This is consistent with the CXT-1 Trainer. It is a more dense midsole, so you're not gonna have as much responsiveness, but for lifting reasons and if you like denser feeling midsoles, you will resonate with this model. You have now a TPU wrap that extends from the base of the forefoot, so into the midfoot here, and then it wraps around the entirety of the shoe's heel on the lateral and medial side as well. This gives you a buff for rope climbing durability, and this TPU does have a nice level of slide to it, so for handstand push-ups, I haven't had any issues, and it should last a while because it is TPU. Looking at the rubber outsole on this model, you have a TYR rubber that runs throughout. Now you don't have the most aggressive lugs, and I'm curious if that's what also contributes to this shoe's slide on turf regarding traction. But again, if you have different colorways, let me know in the comments below what you think of this shoe's grip. This model's heel to toe drop has once again been brought down to 7mm. I think that is a really good step for this shoe, and this model also has a foam removal insole. If you have additional questions on the shoe's construction, drop a comment down below. All right, y'all, that wraps up my review of the CXT-2 Trainer. Now, would I get this shoe again? Yes, I would. Because the shoe has updates that seem like TYR were lifting to our feedback from the community, lifters and athletes, etc., like the lower drop, the TPU wrap here, and also the widened fit, I think those are all cool features for the shoe, and it's honestly just a noticeably stronger shoe compared to the CXT-1. So I do think it's going to be a great shoe for most folks wanting that model for CrossFit and lifting. But if you have additional questions on the CXT-2 Trainer, drop a comment down below or reach out to me on Instagram, whichever you prefer. And as always, if you want to read more about these shoes, I have a written review link down below, and I also have a link to shop this shoe. It does help the channel a ton. But all that said, I will see you guys in the next one. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.